So starting again quickly, the Lyran Wars. The Lyran Wars happened 40 odd million years ago. There was a number of races that lived in the Lyran constellation. Now understand that consciousness in the third dimension exists in the individual, i.e. your ego. Consciousness at a fifth dimensional level exists in the race, the species. So if we were a fifth dimensional race, we would have a global consciousness, like a hive mentality that many of our species do have, like ants, bees, and things like that. They have a hive consciousness, a collective consciousness. At fifth dimensional, that race is the ego. The ego is the whole race. They all think the same way. They all feel the same way. If they have individual thoughts, it's towards the whole. When you move up to seventh dimensional, the consciousness is that of the star of that system. So it's a stellar consciousness. Consciousness expands and encompasses. The easiest way to think of it is go the other way. Every single cell in your body has its own brain, it has its own organs, its own functionalities, its own consciousness, and you are the overriding consciousness of every cell. Okay? So what happened was these fifth dimensional consciousnesses, when they want to play something out, they drop down into a third dimensional state to experience it, because the third dimensional level is the stage. That's where everything's played out. So these fifth dimensional races were living out their dreams in a third dimensional state, very happy, but they wanted to ascend to a higher level of consciousness, as we all do. So the consciousness above them said, well, yes, for you to do that, you have to let go of your belief structure that your race is better than the race next to you. Because you have to understand that everything is one. And you're only part of the way to doing that, because you've got all of your own race thinking you're one, but you think you're different to this race over here, and you think you're better than them. And that's what you have to let go of. So we're going to help you all do that by introducing another race which wants to ascend, and that race is the reptilians, the draconians in particular. And the draconians are wanting to get up to fifth dimensional level, and they've been held back because of their vibrational energy and attachment to fear-based energies, which are very, very powerful. And that's what's been holding them back. Think of a piece of elastic. If you anchor it here, you stretch it up, it'll only go so far before it pulls back again. Well, that's what the reptilians have been doing. They've been anchored here by the energy of fear, and they can only stretch up so far. So to help the reptilians, the higher consciousnesses of the 9th and 11th created a plan where they said, right, we're going to bring the reptilians in here. They'll stir things up. And it caused a huge fracture in all of the Lyran consciousnesses. Okay, that was the first part. They had to deal with stuff. And they started fighting against each other. They'd been living harmoniously for centuries, billions of years. And now they started fighting against each other. And more importantly, they started blaming each other, because this whole agenda on Earth revolves around the blame, forgiveness, taking acceptance of that and atoning, and then moving to understand that all things happen with purpose. That is the big agenda that is playing itself out at the moment. Whether people are going to understand that absolutely everything that happens to you or that you do is in alignment with a higher purpose. Now, when you do that, you stop blaming people and you stop being the victim, because they're the big agendas that are playing out here. So the reptilians came in and they caused mayhem. They just stuck to their purpose. Their purpose was to mine, to find resources. They said, well, we don't care about you. We want the planet. Go somewhere else. So the reptilians have always been played out as being the bad guys. But they're not. They're just focused on their purpose. And if you get in their way, they just get rid of you. But it caused this fraction with all of the Lyran species. And so the decision was made, okay, we have to try and get them all back together as one species. How are we going to do that? Well, the plan was And there's been a number of tries at this. For instance, those of you who know what the Anunnaki or who the Anunnaki are actually a hybrid race between the reptilians and the Sirians. And that was one of the steps along the way. And if you look at Star Wars, okay, the Star Wars series, that is a direct representation of what happened next, which were the Orion Wars. Because when all these races fled Lyra, many of them went to the constellation of Orion. And some of them formed an alliance with the reptilians, while some of the others said, no, 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 they're the bad guys. So these hybridized forms come. So then down from there, we get the Anunnaki. Now, the Anunnaki, they are what we might call explorers, mining explorers. And so they came into this solar system and they set up base on a planet that orbits the second sun in our solar system. Now, for those of you who haven't heard about the fact that our solar system has a second sun, every single solar system in the universe, without exception, has at least 2 suns in it. Scientists have just woken up to this, that every sun seems to have a partner or a pair. And we have a second sun, and it formed as part of an offshoot when our sun was forming, and it's spinning, a part of it shot off, a small part shot off, and stays, the 2 of them are in orbit around each other. But that second sun does not have sufficient mass for it to ignite. So it's what we call a brown dwarf. And it goes by the name of Nibiru. In ancient Egypt, they called it the winged destroyer, or Quetzalcoatl in Mexico. It has a name. And this race of beings, the Anunnaki, that's where their home base is. And as they came in through here, they originally set up on Mars. And in fact, there are still populations on Mars, contrary to what we're being told by NASA. And if you knew the extent of all the lies NASA tells you, did we go to the moon? Well, yes and no. Did we go in the Apollo rockets? No, we didn't. Did we go there in some sort of other craft that is not created by humans? Yes, we did. And there's stuff going on there. Now, the Earth is not an original planet of this solar system. It was created after a collision between a planet that was in where the asteroid belt is and a planet of this other smaller system, of the Nibiru system. When they came through, collided, and so the Earth has a new energy, which we would call a Merkaba energy, or the tetrahedral shape. Jupiter, Saturn, places like that, if you look at their cloud structures, they have a dodecahedral structure. They're much older, much more advanced consciousnesses than the Earth is. I'm going through so much stuff as quick as I can because it's all recorded and you can have a listen back and you can always ask me questions later. Now, when what was part of the debris of this collision tumbled into the orbit of where Earth is, lots of it was molten rock and it's spinning. So a part of it eventually pulled away, and the part that pulled away left a bump where it pulled away, and the smaller bit eventually became our moon. But it left one continent called Pangaea. Now, every time the second sun comes through, the forces involved cause our planet to pull apart at the seams, and it tries to balance itself. This is what causes continental drift. Okay, and that's why the continents have been moving around, because the planet's trying to balance itself. And every time this Nibiru comes through, it will cause a certain degree of crustal displacement that will result in some degree of a pole shift. The pole shift might only be 5 degrees, it could be 10 degrees, or it can be a complete 180 degrees. And it causes massive destructions, and the Great Flood happened, not when we're told, it happened the cycle before of Leo. And a lot of this stuff's in my documentaries and that, so you can get to it. But along the way, the Earth, because this whole section of the universe is controlled by the reptilians, The reptilians used to use the Earth, and they seeded it and created it to do genetic experiments, because the reptilians is the most successful race in the universe. They're incredibly intelligent, they're incredibly resilient, and they're brilliant at genetic engineering. So in terms of science, they are spot on. So they used to do a whole lot of genetic engineering on the planet. And if you look at the dinosaurs either are designed to attack or have incredible defensive mechanisms. So they were playing around with their own DNA to make themselves stronger in every single way possible. There's a great book that you should get to read called According to the Evidence by Erich von Däniken. Some of you will be old enough to remember Erich von Däniken from Chariots of the Gods back in the 70s. He was sort of really the first pioneer about saying that we were the product of genetic engineering, and he was right. So they used to use this planet, the reptilians used to use it for genetic engineering purposes until it got hit by an asteroid. And then they sort of abandoned it for a while. And then the higher agenda came in to say, right, we're going to use that genetic technology to try and create what we might call a Trojan horse. More properly, what resulted was a Frankenstein's monster. So there was a lot of genetic engineering done to create the first prototypes, a viable prototype of a humanoid species in which the DNA of all of these Lyran races could exist. Now, if you ever doubt that genetic engineering took place, just look at a platypus. A platypus has no ancestors. There's no fossil evidence of anything that exists before a platypus. It's got clawed feet, clawed webbed feet. It's got a duck's bill. It's got fur. It's clearly the product of genetic engineering. If you look at a kangaroo's leg, the biomechanics of a kangaroo's leg are exactly the same as a velociraptor or something like that, like one of those dinosaurs. The biomechanics are exactly the same, and they just appear out of nowhere. So genetic engineering has been going along all the time. Now, when the Anunnaki came here on one of their trips around about 500,000 years ago, they genetically engineered a slave race because their own people refused to go down the mines anymore. They said, why should do it when you can create your own people to do it? So that they genetically engineered 9 prototypes. And the god that we might call Isis, they needed a womb to gestate them all. So they were all put into her womb, all these prototypes, and she birthed them all. She literally birthed the human race. And they were all indigenous species, all dark-skinned species, what we might call the American Indians, the Africans, the what we call Australian Aboriginal, whatever you want to refer them to. They were all dark-skinned. And that's why all of these races are so connected to the planet, because the consciousness envelops the vehicle. So once a vehicle has been created, the consciousness steps up into the vehicle. The Buddhists talk about this a lot. They're absolutely right that consciousness starts as rock, because everything in the universe is consciousness. Absolutely everything. Consciousness is structure, structure is consciousness. So the consciousness of Gaia stepped into the indigenous species. Now, the higher consciousness realized that now a viable prototype existed. The next step was to introduce DNA from all of these different other races. So they introduced Sirian DNA, they introduced Pleiadian DNA, Cassiopean DNA, reptilian DNA. All of these things were introduced, and that's why we have the white skins, the blue eyes, the red hairs, all these bits and pieces are like the next hybridized form. Because now it was a matter of saying, and this is where we get a little bit into the science of things, your DNA is the broadcasting of your consciousness. Everything is contained in the DNA. If you ever wondered how a cell decides whether it's going to be a liver cell or a brain cell or do anything like this, the consciousness overrides it all. So now we've got a humanoid species, here we are, with a mixture of DNAs from all over the galaxies, which all have different belief structures. The human race is constantly in third chakra power struggles. Internally, interpersonally, and internationally. We're always in power struggles. We don't understand. We're absolutely all the same. Those of you who are conscious of things like chakras are being misled when you think that this chakra is heart chakra and that the heart's all so important. The heart's just a pump. It just pumps chemicals around the body that affect you. What is more important here is your lungs. The Buddhists know that. It's all about the breath. It's all about the prana. Why is that important? Because we're all connected through the air that we breathe. We're not connected by our blood. We're connected by the air that we breathe that cycles in and out of each of us all the time. And when we get to that understanding, then we'll realize that everything we do affects everybody else. So the agenda for the higher purpose is to be able to get each individual to come at peace with that understanding and have all the DNA working together as one through interacting. Now, where that comes relevant to most of you here will be that you're not human consciousness. It's like I said this to someone the other day. I said, if I make every single car in America American, and everyone who's in America gets into a car, what happens if I am born in China and I come to America and get into a car? Does that mean I suddenly become American? No, I'm just in an American vehicle. And it's the same here for most of you. You're not human consciousness. You're some star-seeded consciousness that's come into this vehicle for a purpose. Now, your purpose might be to assist at first to second chakra transition. It might be to assist from second to third chakra transition. It's more likely that you're here to assist from the third to fourth chakra transition for other people, to get out of power struggles and understanding that we're all one. Some of you may work at the next level down, which is about creativity and how to use your creativity in a positively powerful way. Some of you may be here just to observe and to pass on what's going on through the experiences in your life. You're uploading to the Galactic Federation every second, writing report cards on whether the humans treat animals well. How do humans treat other species? Because a lot of starseeds incarnate into whales, dolphins, cats, horses, because they're observing how the human race treats other different looking species. Some of you have gone through absolute hell in your life, been treated badly, lied to, all those sorts of things, because you're experiencing how humans treat their own kind for selfish reasons and egos. And the more shit you've gone through, the more an advanced soul you are. So if your life's been a bloody roller coaster full of challenges and all sorts of crap, pat yourself on the back, because the basic human people are just dealing with whether they can have food or not. They're still at base chakra level. How many people have we got in the planet don't have a roof over their head, don't know where the next food is coming from? Because they're new human souls. And that's where they have to start. The more experienced ones are looking at the starvation and the exploitation that's going on the planet and saying, how can you do that to your own species, to your own brothers and sisters? The star races, we're looking at this going, I cannot believe that millions of children die every day while a handful of people have enough money and resources to feed them for an eternity. Star races don't operate that way. So this is where we're at. This is where we're at. We're here observing, contributing, trying to educate. But because we've been in human bodies for so many lives, some of you might have seen the Spider-Man movie. I think it's Spider-Man 3, where he gets covered all in this black gooey stuff and it changes his personality. Well, that's exactly what being in a human body is like. Because human emotions, these are drug-influenced things, anger, all of these, love, they're all illusions, they're all delusions, but they're created by chemicals in your body. And you become addicted to those chemicals. That's like the black goo. And it's very hard to detach from that stuff, because the more times you incarnate into a human body, the more times you get used to it. And the more times it starts to dictate you rather than you being detached from it. Well, folks, we're waking up to who we really are. We're waking up. You know, you may not know exactly which star race or races you have come representing. But if you're here, it's because you know. You've known all along that you're different. You're probably the black sheep of the family. You probably had very, very few real friends in your growing up, because no one understood you. They all thought you were great, you were fine, they loved being around you. But you never felt you belonged, because you don't. And that's okay. Because when the star races incarnated here, you didn't come here to all come together and have a party. You spread yourselves all over the planet. And believe me, there is not many of you. You know, in the Bible, they talk about the 144,000, and, you know, that's a figure that's been plucked out of the air. But when I asked Source how many, he said there's about 100,000 in the whole planet, star-seeded consciousnesses and the whole planet. He said, and you're scattered, so you're hardly ever going to run into one another, because you're here to work with humans, not with star-seeded people. So you keep incarnating into the same family over and over again to move things forward. So it's Mike, for those of you who know. Mike, I'm just on a... Oh, sorry. Mike, I'm just on a Zoom call, mate. Can I talk to you later? Yep. Cheers. I'll talk to you later. Bye. For those of you who haven't contacted Mike or been in touch with Mike, Mike's brilliant. He's been doing great work on the common law front for many, many, many years. So if you're not part of the meetings of that group, I suggest you contact Mike many times if you need help. He's based up in Queensland. So we're here to work individually. Now, please take this bit very seriously. Only the best of all the star races were selected to come here. Okay? And volunteered. So only the best of the best made the cut, because of the work they had done in other civilizations, on other planets, in other galaxies. They were the best prepared to deal with this, because the higher consciousnesses underestimated what was going to be needed. They did not anticipate that this human consciousness would come forward. Okay, this human consciousness, Gaia consciousness, would come forward and interfere with stuff. So many of you have huge levels of frustration, depression, and if you're anything like me, you just think, I just want to go home. I'm so over this shit. I've seen them do this before. The humans just don't learn. This is not the first time they've self-destructed, and it's probably not going to be the last. And the big problem on the planet, and I'm going to put it out there now, is Pleiadians. And that's going to upset some people. And I've had some Pleiadians who've been pretty pissed off when I've said that. And the Pleiadians are all about light and love. Everything's light and everything's love and everything's beautiful. It'll sort itself out. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. And if you push a Pleiadian's buttons the right way, you'll get somebody who's all light and love within a couple of minutes, abusing you and pointing the finger and yelling at you, because that's what's deep down underneath. And that's the problem that the Lyran conflict was all about, because the Pleiadians put themselves up on a pedestal, did not honor their dark side. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to honor the dark side. And that's why so many of the incarnating things of the Illuminati are what we would call the darker aspects. They are actually fulfilling a purpose to bring this into human consciousness so it can be resolved. So when you hear about the hundreds of thousands of children who are being born in tunnels and tortured for adrenochrome and all those sorts of things, understand that those souls are making the sacrifice for the higher agenda. And they're being sacrificed in the 3D world because they're making a sacrifice for the higher consciousness of everything. Is it terrible? Yes, it is. But there's a purpose behind it. That's why they came in that way and you're coming in your way. So hopefully that gives a very broad overview of everything's going on. There's 100,000 other things that, you know, I can share information on. But hopefully that's a good place to throw it open for any comments or questions or anything from there. Peter.
Greetings, Earthling.
Oh, don't insult me.
We've all been living, generally speaking, generalization, in a story that has been fed to us, that we've grown up with. What you've just shared has been very, very valuable information, very valuable. However, it's being absorbed into the mind, and even though it's truth, it's regarded as still another story that we go, well, that's what I heard, that's what I... Yeah. The real truth comes in, as far as I'm concerned, the real truth comes through consciousness and experiencing. And consciousness is a fixed term. It's actually a process, which is consciousness in, with an ing on the end of it, because it's an ongoing process. Awakening, it's not I'm awakened, it's I'm awakening continually, etc.
Yeah.
So the question that I have is, as I said, it's one thing getting all of this and putting it in the mind and going, oh, yeah, well, this is analytical, this is information, this is data. How do we actually get the download of the beingness or the being and just get that information as an experience, as a holistic understanding, not just go, oh, this is an academic understanding of, well, this happened and this is the Pleiadians and this is the reptilians, etc., and going on a whole mind trip, because our mind sort of plays games with us anyway. And then we go into a debate with somebody that's got a different version of the truth, or of the data, I should say. So how do we actually get a download, or are we going to be receiving downloads anyway?
Okay, I'm just to let a lot of you know that I'll go into situations where what's coming out of my mouth is coming straight from source. So if you ask me about it 5 minutes later, I'll probably not remember what's being said, but there's certain things that are coming through straight away. Everything that you've just talked about, the story, is you're in a situation where you need a frame of reference. When Source first created the universe, it had to create a frame of reference. It had to create an alternate to itself so that it could have a frame of reference. And only once it's got a duality to begin with, can it create conflict and different perspectives, etc. So the first thing is to understand that you have a frame of reference to work under and work with. You don't have to hang on to it, but you're being given a frame of reference. The second thing is that you are continually being downloaded triggers. So each and every one of you have zip files in you. Every single atom in your body is a cosmic library that creates the entire history of the universe. You are being gifted triggers to release the information as you require it. The message is, don't look externally. The keys are in your back pocket. It's in your own vibrational energy. Go to vibration. Go to sound. Your thought is the most powerful influence in the universe. Use it to say simple things, because the universe always answers your requests. The question is, are they in alignment with your purpose or not? If they're not in alignment with your purpose, they will not be given. If they're in alignment with your purpose, they will be given. So the greatest thing to do is to voice to the universe that you are gratefully ready to receive whatever is in alignment with your highest purpose. There's no value judgment on that. But your higher consciousness knows what your highest purpose is and will bring you everything that is exactly in alignment with it. If we talk about the other night when Ren came on to the group meeting, just in a chance, she decided to come on. Now, she had been asking the universe, and she listened when the universe said, go on that call, because you're going to find exactly what you need, the people that you need, what you're looking for. So the thing is, Peter, that the answer to that is actually within each and every one of us individually. That inner voice that we have been conditioned in many ways to not listen to, we need to listen to, even if it seems completely illogical.
I understand that. I actually go reference back to the movie The Matrix, where there basically was an underground movement that was really having a hard battle. But as soon as the discovery was that it's the light that shines through, it just destroyed everything that was against the light. So basically that's where I think we are. And the light is actually our consciousness. And you're right, everybody experiences that in a different way. As there are 7.5 billion different gods or divines on this planet, because everybody perceives it in a different way.
Yeah, well, each and every single one of us is a god.
Yeah.
We are the very reason why the universe exists. If I can share with you, I was driving across the Nullarbor, and suddenly Source started having a conversation, which was a bit of a concern because I was driving with the family in the car and everything. We went for hundreds of miles and I don't remember it. But the thing that Source was taking me through was a very, very interesting thing. Many of us are preoccupied with this concept of the light. Light and love, good and bad and evil, which are all conditioned belief structures that have been created by our controllers. What Source said, he said, is if you stand and you're preoccupied with the light, you're looking into it. And if you're looking into it, you're blinded by it because you can't see what's behind it. You can't see what's outside of it. You've just become preoccupied with the light. Now, at some point, it might become too bright for you, so you turn away from it. And that's when you discover a world of shadows. And suddenly the shadows are like, oh my God, there's shadows here, there's dark. You have failed to observe that the first shadow that's cast is cast by yourself. So some people are still looking blindly into the light, while others are looking at a world of shadows, not understanding that they are the one casting the shadow. And what Source said to me was, he said, shift your perspective to the place from where the light emanates, the void, the source of all that is. Black beyond black, emptiness beyond emptiness, complete potential of all that is and all that is yet to be. And when you shift your perspective to not looking at the void, but being the void, then your life will change. Now, it's a pretty abstract concept in many ways. But if you just ask to become the void for the experience of it, it will happen to you. It's an extraordinary moment that you can reproduce whenever you want. And you see that everything that is happening on this planet at the moment is just a projection of and from the void. And you are the scriptwriter. You are the director. You're also the actor playing the character. Now, a good actor can make the character believable. You know, sometimes we call it method acting, where you actually believe you are that character and so you do everything. Well, most people on the planet actually are convinced that they are the character. They're convinced they're the straw man, if we want to look at it that way. And they blindly go along being the straw man, which means they don't even know who the director is. They don't even know who wrote the script. But we're different. We understand the levels of complexity, and we know that we are the script writer in this. But sometimes it takes time for it to unfold. You know, a good story has many, many twists and turns. And we're going through a big one right now. There's going to be some more stuff happen, but it's all part of the game. What Source says to me, he says, detach. It's like he says, pull the Spider-Man black suit off. Detach from your emotional reactions to things. He said, that doesn't mean that you don't have to experience it. Be angry in the moment. Be happy in the moment. Be pissed off in the moment. Be depressed in the moment. But if the cause is not there, don't stay attached. Said if you put your hand into the fire, it hurts. Pull your hand out. Be angry. Don't leave your hand in the fire. And when you've pulled your hand out, don't keep going on about, oh my God, it was so hot though. It really hurt. It did that, the other. Yeah, but your hand's not in it anymore. Why are you carrying on about it? Because you've been conditioned to get out of the moment. There is only the moment. At this moment, each and every one of you is absolutely oblivious to COVID. It does not play a part in your life at all in this moment. The lockdown does not play a part in this moment because you're sitting comfortably in your space. If you didn't know there was a lockdown outside, it would make no difference. You're just at home in front of your computer. Don't allow things that are not part of your moment to affect the moment. Because this is what happens. When you are not in the moment, you project into the future based on events of the past. And the future and the past are not connected. Because there is only the moment. So when you project into the future, you're actually projecting into the future based on the fears of the past. Nobody projects into the future when they're in a state of being in a blissful, they're too busy being blissfully happy. You know, if we're planning a holiday in the future, we're being blissful in the moment because we're thinking, oh, I can do this, I can do that, whatever. We're being blissful in creative mode. But when people project into the future as to what an outcome will be, it's always based on fear. And that's attachments. So the big message for us as star consciousnesses is don't fall into the human trap. Don't allow your chemical reactions in your body, which are fear-based, to determine your presence in the moment. Daniel.
Alex, I like these meetings and everything, but there's some strange things has happened to me just recently since I've been coming to these meetings, and like you mentioned the star seeds, I've been getting attacked internally, like in ways that's just draining me completely, and I don't really know how to explain it or how to put it in the words, but it's like a psychological and an internal attack on my spirit and my soul in ways that, yeah, just some sort of outside of force that I don't know what's going on, but I don't know whether anyone else has experienced that. I don't know whether it's because I've joined this little group. Like, don't get me wrong, I love everything that you're saying, and it does resonate with me. But yeah, I don't know whether it's because I'm meant to be following a different path, or something's telling me, you're actually getting too close to the truth. We don't want you to be there, and we're going to attack you. I don't know. It's just something really strange, mate.
Well, potentially it's all of the above. There is a resistance to change that is incumbent in human consciousness. This is where control comes in. There is a fear of loss, and so control comes in. This is the power stuff we talked about. The human consciousness is stuck at third chakra level. So there is a lot of thought permeating human consciousness that is fear-based about things changing or losing something. The reality is you don't have anything. Everything is borrowed. Your body is borrowed. When you die, it just goes back to the ground and does whatever. So it's all borrowed. You don't own anything. But we have a conditioned fear belief of losing stuff. And therefore, there are people who will go into control mode. And so it's that energy that is trying to suppress your free spirit, suppress your free way of thinking, suppress your conscious awareness of things. Because it would be so easy to just cave in. But your higher consciousness won't allow you to do that. So it's standing up and it's going, no, no. Accept it like water rushing over you. Yeah, fine. It's got nothing to do with me. The physical things that will happen to you will depend on what your purpose is. If you are meant to be a warrior, then you'll stand up to injustice. But you'll do it in a dignified manner. The hardest thing to do for all of us is to stand in truth, irrespective of what we're facing. 99% of people will cave in. Daniel, you're someone who won't. And what Source says is, you shall reap what you sow. When you stand in truth, you will be rewarded. In fact, one of the ways that things operate is once you're given conscious awareness of something, when you take the move to stand in your truth, it's always uncomfortable. It's always inconvenient when you're given that conscious awareness. But the rewards come straight away. If we don't do that, for instance, if you didn't stand in your truth, what would the repercussions be?
I've got a question, Alex.
My repercussions when I don't stand in the truth is it eats me alive inside. So a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you shouldn't say that," and I just say it because it needs to be said. And I can't. Half the time I don't even remember what I say. I just say it because it needs to be said, and that person needs to hear it. And that's just how I am.
Yeah, and if you don't stand in your truth, the system just steamrollers you. and it keeps you suppressed, and it takes your money off you, and it takes your liberty away, and it do like this, and it conditions you to be that way. Pavlov's dogs. But when you stand in your truth, you discover your power, because suddenly you go, you know, I stood in my truth, and that judge, that magistrate, they called me by my living man name. They've acknowledged that now. That's a win, because I stood in my truth. So I'm going to keep standing in my truth.
Yeah, this stuff going on now, this is like nothing unusual. It's just the first time I've really stood up to the powers that think they have power over you. Normally it's just like, yeah, righto, whatever, do whatever you want to do. Don't really care. Move on, forget about it. But it's something in me now that I've got kids. I can't see my children going through what I went through.
Yeah.
Because it's.
Well, you're right.
I accepted it, and I just went with the flow. It didn't really bother me getting punched and bashed and all that sort of. Never really bothered me. It's just whatever. But I don't want to see anyone else go through it. And I always think that the only way to break a cycle is someone's got to stand up. And if I've got to be the one to stand up, well, so be it.
Absolutely. You would throw yourself in front to protect your children. So you're taking the blows now because you understand that's okay. I can take these blows now because what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm clearing a path for my family, for my kids, so that they don't have to deal with this down the track. And this is what happens. If you want to look at it that way, this is the Star Trek thing and the Galactic Federation who are going around trying to take all the blows and do all of that to make things a better place, if we want to look at it that way. Yep, someone else was going to say something.
Sorry, but also I was just going to say, also there's also a battle of, whether you want to call it source or God or whatever, but there's also a battle between the voice over here going, go and fucking stab the fuck out of them. And I know that's wrong. Don't get me wrong, but there's the other voice that's saying, you already got a better path. You know, he's only a tricker, and we've got all powerful over here.
That's absolutely right, mate. I run that one every day of what my human self wants to do. My human self, what it wants to do. And I tell you what, I'm pretty creative, and I've got some pretty amazing ways that I would do stuff and get away with it. But that's my human self. If anybody ever really wants to know how to take somebody out and not leave any evidence, just get one of those, you know, those kebab skewers, those wooden kebab skewers. Do you know you can just stab someone in the heart with one of those, perforate their aorta, and they'll bleed internally, and all there is just this tiniest little hole. And how easy is it to get rid of a wooden kebab sticker? Yeah, just, you know, I'm a creative person. I think of these things, but I understand it's my human mind at work. Would I ever go and do that? No.
Well, this got deep really quick.
Wouldn't the kebab stick break though, Alex?
Not if you do it directly.
Please stop. You're making me hungry.
Mine's going 100 miles now.
But there's like this. It's just honor what your human self is feeling, and just detach from it.
Yeah.
Say, I know the whole world is an illusion. I've got a choice. I can buy into the illusion. Like watching a movie, I can sit there and I can cry or I can laugh. But when the movie's over,
Done.
just detach. Just detach. We're in the movie. We're in the real purpose, the whole movie right now. This whole event is actually a universal event. There is a whole shift of consciousness permeating the whole universe. There is a new level of what people would call the divine feminine coming to the whole universe. It is not a rehashing of the old divine feminine. This is what the feminist movement was all about. Feminist movement was trying to rehash the old divine feminine by fighting against the masculine. It doesn't work that way. There is a whole race of beings. Some of you may know them, the blue birds, the blue avians, who are the spike of energy that's escaped from a dying universe, saying, no, it's all about play. Everything's about play. Everything's about fun and play. There's a race of being called the Krypta, who are a reptilian race, who are a consciousness, because that whole universe has collapsed in on itself because of their preoccupation with knowledge and not fun. There's been no expansion. It's all been about this. And that
Gotcha.
universe and this universe are connected at the moment. And there's these other races. This whole agenda is about moving from the blame forgiveness cycle, where you either blame someone and then you put yourself in ego to forgive them, to getting to the point where you become accountable for your own actions. Then you go into the level of atonement, to where you move from atonement to understanding that because everything in the universe happens with purpose, that blame and forgiveness and atonement are all illusions. They're prison cells. This is what the whole Lyran issue is about. So look at your own life. Level 1, who do I blame for things? And who do I forgive for things, which is ego? Or am I at the next level where I've taken responsibility for my own actions, but now I'm blaming myself and I need to forgive myself? Or am I at the next level where I'm atoning, I've taken ownership of everything and I'm atoning for that? Or am I at the level where I understand that absolutely everything has happened with purpose? I might not be aware of that purpose, but I understand it. So therefore, I don't blame anyone. I'm not a victim. No one else is a victim. Everything is just what it is. It is what it is. Where am I in that cycle? That's a good question to ask yourself.
I've asked that question myself 1,000 times, Alex, but I think the question I still have is, what is the purpose of it all? You know,
Awesome.
What was it for?
That's a great, that is the only question to be asking. What is my purpose? Now, your human consciousness may not be aware of it, but your higher self is 100%. There was a stage when people used to go through doing affirmations, okay? And affirmations don't work. Simply because if you weigh 40 stone and you go around saying, I am slim and happy, your higher self goes, no, you're not, you're a fat pig. Why are you lying to yourself? But if you say, I am ready to receive with gratitude whatever is in alignment with my highest purpose, the whole universe is geared towards that.
Yep, I absolutely do.
Simple as that. So if you ask the universe, I am ready to receive awareness of what my purpose is, then it'll be gifted to you. You've just got to ask for it, and you've got to ask for it with the right words. With gratitude, I am ready to accept the awareness of what my purpose in this incarnation is. And I'll give you some clues, Sandy. Everything that you've done in your life has been to prepare you for it.
Yeah.
The events that have happened to you, the courses of study that you've done, the job direction, all of those things are to prepare you for it. That's why understanding what the higher agenda is, you now overlap the two. So all the things I've done, am I here to assist this process, this agenda? At what level? From what chakra level to the next? Is it about getting out of ego and power struggle to understanding we're all one? Is it about learning how to be creative? Start asking those questions and you'll watch. The two of them will overlap and you'll go, oh my God, everything that I've done makes sense now. That's why I was interested in this. That's why I was with that person. That's why this happened to me, because that's what I'm here to do now. And I'm right here. This is the moment.
Mm.
And I know right now within you, you're putting the pieces together.
Yep.
The jigsaw puzzle is doing this.
Mm.
It's all the pieces are making sense to you now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely spot on there, Alex. And just to put a real stamp on that, I feel like I was sort of had a huge interest in all these issues many moons ago, but life circumstances and traumas and shit took me away from it, sadly. And now I've come back to it. I feel like I'm where I belong.
Absolutely. And you've come back wiser and more aware because of the distractions.
Mm.
Because when we get distracted away from something, it helps us focus on where we know we should be.
Mm.
And then we learn how to not get distracted.
Yep.
Okay? I've got a very, very simple process of eliminating the distractions in my life, i.e. people. People are the distractions.
Yes, they certainly are.
And so I have a very simple way of putting things out there. And if people have a problem with it, I straight away I go, no, don't waste my time here. Just plant the seed and move on.
Mm.
Can I add to that question?
This to you. Sorry.
All right.
Rick.
Go ahead. Well, I think they're really good questions. It kind of follows on a bit from what Peter was saying as well, that, about, what's happening and what's coming, if you want to call it receiving, channeling, whatever you want to call it, that's coming through what we're talking about. But there's certainly, to me, a caution with that to be used, and be careful what you ask for, in a sense, because I think and I'd like you to continue talking about not just the art of, learning to ask, but perhaps learning to receive. And I think they're both related, and I think it's kind of adds that. So it's more about the art of asking and receiving.
Yes, mate, you've hit the nail on the head. And for those of you who don't know who Rick is, Rick's done amazing stuff in developing the website for the people of Australia and around the world. So acknowledgement to this man who's just gone above and beyond the call of assisting people. And I just want to publicly acknowledge you, mate, for that, because you've done extraordinary stuff. The art of receiving is a hard one for most people to grasp. And the reason for that is we always think there's a string attached. We always think that it's a unit of trade, that if somebody does something for us, there's some hidden agenda of expectation behind. Now that is in your mind, not in theirs. It might be in their mind, but it might not be. So why are you preempting it? Gratitude. The universe rewards you from many unknown sources. Like when I was going to Egypt and this total stranger sponsored my being there, and it changed my life. And I still to this day don't know who that was. But I understand it doesn't have to come, and majority of time it doesn't come from the person that you are connecting with.
Can I relate it back to my journey over the last 2 months?
By all means.
Just quickly, when I kind of got involved and did what Alex just said, was kind of I threw myself into it a bit and was able to do some of my best work. But I also, in a way, came out of it with a very black cloak on, to use that vernacular. And I think I got very attached to the human process of it, of doing the work. And so unattaching from that has been kind of what I've been trying to do for the last week. So that's what I'm saying, be careful what you ask for. Even though, I wanted to do the work, I still got, came out of it very heavy. And so, but I want to be light of that and do my work better, so to speak. So
Yeah.
Sorry.
Awesome, mate. No, it's good, because you're bringing up really valid point here. It's not what you're asking for. It's why you're asking for that's important. Okay. Why are you asking for something? Not what are you asking for? Why are you asking for it? Is it something that's essential to you? Because if it is, the universe will gift it to you anyway. We should change the word giving to gifting. I'm gifting. When I do something for somebody, or I'm asking for something, I ask the universe with gratitude to send me what's in alignment. And if it comes through a person, then I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge the person for their generosity. I ask with gratitude, but I ask also with no expectation. I don't have any expectations, because if you have expectations, you are setting yourself up for disappointment, because those expectations may be unmet. And you haven't told the other person of what all the expectations are. So when we learn to just gift, I mean, I have had so many people saying, oh, look, I'll pay you for do this work. I'll pay you for do this. I said, no, sorry. I'm doing it for a higher purpose. If at the end of that, you want to gift me something or do it, that's up to you. That's fine. But I'm not going to go into a trade situation for something that is not measurable in value. The value to me is above and beyond a financial aspect. I understand how infinite abundance works. I don't have to get it as a trade for something. It allows the gift to be what it is, the gifting of something. So be aware of why you are asking for something.
I would say that things that come can also be a burden, though, in a way, because if you receive information or new enlightenment, it can also be a burden that you carry in a way. So, and it's also, it's what we're all working towards, is to be light and be enlightened of this stuff as we go. But it certainly feels like a lot of it a burden. I mean, a lot of people out there have their own personal circumstances. I can't imagine what Daniel's been through in his life and such, So we're completely looking at it from a different lens anyway. So it's, but we're all trying to be, but we're all trying to understand it better and be light of it, whatever you want to call it.
I understand that nothing is burdened to you without purpose, and you're never given more than you can carry, because if you can't carry it, what's the point? But if you need to build up your strength, and guys probably understand this a lot, if you want to build your muscles up, you've got to go to a gym and you've got to lift weights progressively heavier and heavier and heavier to build up your strength. So any burden that you suddenly find yourself carrying is a gift for you to discover your strength and to build your strength. And I guarantee you, each and every one of you have been through some sort of burden in your life, and you've all come through it stronger because of it. When we shift our perspective to understand what purpose really is about, and the first thing that Source said to me when I connected with him, I hear it as a masculine voice. And it stuck with me from day one. Said, there is only one thing you need to remember. There is only one thing you need to fully comprehend, and it is this: consciousness with intent or through intent manifests. The whole mystery of life is contained in those simple words. Consciousness, i.e. the level of awareness that you have, with or through your intention, i.e. what's really behind it, what you're thinking, is what manifests, because this is how Source created the universe. And the understanding of that applied to any situation will bring you what's in alignment with your purpose. Simple. Source says there is nothing complicated in the universe. It is absolute simplicity. There are levels of complexity built upon the absolute simplicity. Do not confuse yourself with complexities. Focus on the simplicities, and everything else will sort itself out. Someone else got comment, a question, anything?
Can I?
Honey.
With when you're saying the Earth gives you what, like in future, or what about taking away, like death? Like, you know how they say, oh, it happened for a reason. I don't know, sometimes when I think about like a car accident, I sometimes have a feeling that, well, cars are man-made and they shouldn't have passed away anyway. Like they could have passed like from a heart attack, for example, instead of an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So what's like, I don't know, like, was that their purpose in a way though, or were they meant to leave and come
Yes.
back?
In effect, yes. Anyone who leaves the body has made a conscious decision to do so. This is why somebody can trip over a bee on a path and die. Okay, and you go, oh my God, what a freak accident. Other people can be an extraordinary triple crash thing, and somehow they come out of it unscathed. It's because their higher self says, no, that was a wake-up call for me. You know, I fell over and broke my leg because I've been basically rushing too fast in my life and I needed to slow down and take time out. These things happen for a reason. So when people pass over, when you make a choice to leave your body, which is what happens, it's because you have made a decision that your purpose in this life is complete. Now, I know people who have left the planet early when their kids were young, because if they had stayed in their body, it would have affected the timeline of the child, and the child had come in because it wanted a particular experience which could not unfold if the parent was still alive.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask about like what happens with children, like if they get hit by a car or something or drowned. Is that just they've had their time, they've been there,
No,
done
they
what
may
they
be.
meant to do, and then go to...
They may have incarnated because the parent needed to have the experience of grief and loss and getting over that experience. So that soul volunteered to come in to bring that experience to the parent. When you step to your higher consciousness and you understand all of these things happen with purpose, that's the overriding thing. Say, all right, it's happened. There's a purpose behind it. What could be the purpose behind that? And I guarantee you 99% of the time, it's got nothing to do with you. It's to do with someone else. Source just jokingly says to me all the time, he says, Alex, always remember, it's not about you. It's just not about, get your ego out of the way, because it's not about you. It's about the message.
Yeah, well, in saying that, like, I never put myself first. I always put everyone else before me. So,
well, there's a lesson in that. Put whoever's meant to be first.
Yeah, that's the kids.
Right? Put whoever's meant to be first. Well, see, sometimes it won't be the kids, because if you're all struggling in a situation and you need to save yourself first so that you can save them, if you try to put them first, you all die in a circumstance, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So what Source says is put whoever is meant to be first. So it's a simple, slight modification of things. Get your ego out of the way.
They always say when you're on a plane, put your oxygen mask on first. And if you don't look after yourself first, you're operating from an empty cup and you haven't got anything left to give anybody else. So if you're always looking after yourself and giving yourself self-love and self-care, then you have so much more to give back to others.
Absolutely. Source used to change it for me. He said, be centered in self rather than self-centered. I really like that when he said it to me. So I'm going to repeat it, because he said, repeat it because it's good. He said, be centered in self. That's with a capital S. which is higher consciousness. Be centered in self rather than self-centered. There's lots of analogies that go with that. It's like, be the eye of the hurricane. Don't get caught up in the hurricane. Be the eye of the hurricane. The eye of the hurricane is absolutely still, is absolutely calm, and it's the lowest pressure. While all around it, all hell's breaking loose.
How does he say that to you?
When I was younger, right, before I had the connection with Source, I used to see things and I used to hear things and do all that sort of stuff. But now I don't. Since I had this one-on-one with him in Egypt, what happened was I was in a circle. We had circles every night, and everything that she said, I sort of knew it and knew more layers to it. And everyone was having these amazing shifts and everything, and nothing was happening to me. And after about 5 or 6 nights of it, I had to go and see her and say, look, everything you're saying, I know it, and there's more layers to it and everything, but nothing's happening for me and I'm getting frustrated. She just looked at me and she said, oh, my dear boy, you're just a different entity to everybody else. That's fine. And it was like this huge burden got lifted off my shoulder. But then when it came to the last night, and I used to just sit in the circles, and all of a sudden, she mentioned the name of Akhenaten. She'd never said it before, but this was the night before we went into the pyramid, and some, boy, can I tell you some stuff that's happened inside the pyramids. And all of a sudden, I found myself traveling off through space. And what happened was, the face of Akhenaten appeared in front of me, and I actually went in through the eye. And as I went in through the eye, the whole universe opened up. And I'm traveling through the universe, and I'm heading towards the Pleiadian star system. And I thought, oh, I'm heading back home. And I went straight through it. Shoom. And I went, oh. And suddenly the Andromedan system appeared. And I went, oh, I'm going way back. I'm going back to my real origins, back to there. Now, I know now that what it was, I was dimensionally shifting. The Pleiadian was a 5th dimensional porthole. Andromeda is a 7th dimensional porthole. So when I got to Andromeda, I went straight through Andromeda, and then I was lost. I had no idea where I was going after that. And then all of a sudden, I just came face to face with Source. And then Source just turned me around, hands on my shoulders. And in that moment, it's like we melded and we became one. My mind was Source's mind. And there were billions of shafts of light going off in all directions. And at the end of every one of those shafts was a life that I'd had. And all Source said was this: now see as I see. And in that moment, it was like billions of zip files of information got downloaded into my brain. And somebody would say something, and one of these files would just pop up and open up, and all this information would be there. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, it sort of does, because I'm visual, so I'm visualizing it. So it just, the file drops into your mind as something needs
So,
to be said,
so for instance, now I don't visually see with my eyes, but I get images in my mind, and I can describe the images in my mind, but they are not being seen by my eyes. And the same with the voices. I don't hear the voice. The knowing is just in my head.
I get really that sometimes, like with work, you know, when I'm talking to clients and stuff, and all of a sudden I get a vision in my head and I've got to talk to them. I said, look, I can just see the picture, you know, now of the idea, but, you know, I know it's not along the same thing, but it was funny to sort of describe that. I've got a meeting at 4 o'clock and I've got 2 questions if I can ask, please, Alex. I'm not sure if one of it's even related. I'm not sure if both of them are.
Well, find out.
Spirits. So something happens to me to do with spirits, and it's not a really nice feeling. I don't know whether they visit me in my dream or in my surroundings, but I know what nightmares are. I've had a lot of them through my life, but these are actually different. I feel things on top of my bed, like a heavy lump or something.
Yep.
I felt something one night that had all teeth and everything, and then the next night my little Balinese 4-year-old grandson saw a ghost on the stairs behind me there, and he described big teeth as well. So I'm just wondering, is that anyhow connected to, you know, it's something that I go to bed with a lamp on now. I'm too scared to be in the dark because I feel the spirits can come in the dark. Is that related to anything?
Absolutely, it's related. Now, before I answer the bulk of that, I'm going to tell you this. No consciousness will do something that it doesn't want to do. These entities have the freedom, because they're not in a physical form, okay? They're in either fourth dimensional consciousness or fifth dimensional and above, right? They have the freedom to travel the whole universe at any time and do whatever they want. They are not wasting that freedom to come back and harass a third dimensional life form. Okay, that's not an interesting purpose. Oh, I'm going to hang around and just give people shit. They've got more important things to do. What they're doing is important. They're coming back because there is something you need to address and resolve, and they are coming back to assist you to do that. If you're not addressing it, they're going to harass you. If you don't get it the first time, they're going to up the ante. If you don't get it the second time, they're going to up the ante again. Say, hey, this is important. Don't stick your hand in the fire. Okay?
How do I address it though? Like I bring
them.
it up. Sorry.
You're not giving them the opportunity to share the message with you. So they're getting annoyed with you. So what you need to do is invite them, ask them what the message is, and with gratitude, thank them. And once you've done that and taken the message, they'll leave you alone. They're not here to harass you. They're here to enlighten you. They're here to bring awareness of something to you that you're not, that you're avoiding, you're not acknowledging. So that's what nightmares are about. They're bringing your fears to your surface for you to address. They are a gift. See them as a gift. Invite them in and ask and tell them that you are ready to receive the message. No matter how conflicting it may be, you're ready. And you watch how things change.
I have tried something like that before, but maybe not fully enough, so I will. But then it goes into the second thing then is I have a very big fear of being buried alive. Or something, and it's all to do, you know, you're talking about the breath earlier on. Yep. It's all to do with the breathing. So I have, you know, like I literally, if I see anything to do with a coffin or somebody about to be put in the ground or drowning or stuff like that, I start going into like, you know, palpitations and I have to turn away.
I can see it at least two lives, one where you were entombed and one where you actually physically were buried alive.
Oh.
You've been through those experiences. There's no need for you to worry about them because you don't need to go through them again. But you've said 3 times the word fear, 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 fear. So you're answering your own question is that you are fearful of things that don't exist. You're fearful of your own mind and your own memories, which means you're not being in the present. What I would suggest is going back to those particular lives where, when you were entombed and when you were buried alive, to say, what was that life all about? Why did I choose that way to end it in that life? What's the significance of it in this life? What am I doing to myself in this life that is a copy of what I did in that life? How am I suffocating myself in this life? Because the answers will come to you. You probably already got things coming through your mind. How am I suffocating myself in this life? Because that's why that's reminding me, hey, remember last time we brought it to your attention by actually burying you alive to say, well, if you suffocate your life, this is what happens. That's why we have these experiences. to bring us into conscious awareness. All these things that are coming to you, Serena, are gifts from your higher self. Because they want you to live and breathe much fuller in this life without the burden that you're placing yourself under.
I think it also comes back to that saying that is what we focus on and what we speak forth, the fears that we speak forth, they will keep being at the forefront. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Consciousness with intent
yeah,
manifest. If your intent is fear-based, guess what you're going to manifest?
going to mass more of the same.
That's the gift from your higher self, because it presents it to you to say, hey, you're thinking about this. That's what you're manifesting. Is that what you want? No, we don't get what we want. We get what we need. I think someone wrote a song.
Well, Alex, how do you, you know, I've done NLP, EFT, HUNA, you know, rebirth and all that sort of stuff. What is it that can take you back? I mean, I've had a seer take me back to when I was an Indian on a mountain many things ago. And that was a really good life from the story I got from that, and whether it's true or not, but I feel like it is because, you know, I relate to the birds, the singing, the Indians, you know. But how do you go back to like timeline therapy, to that past life or something to face it?
Well, I've got a really simple way that I take people through it. And the first thing I say is write down any time period in history or any place in history that you've always had an affinity for, whether it be good or bad, whatever, and just write it down the places. Said, right, now just get a picture in your mind, like a camera picture in your mind of the one that you want to focus on, like a photograph. And then I say to people, just describe the photograph for me, what you can see, what's clear there. Yep, great, fantastic. So now let's take the photograph and let's turn it into a video and just let the video run and tell me what you see in the video. Okay, and then they tell the video and they're telling me the video. I said, right, now tell me about the cameraman, because that's who you were in that life. What's your relationship to what you're videoing? And you can plug into that life in that simple process. Then you can start ask questions, because now you know who that consciousness is in that life, which is you. You're tapping back into the Akashic records. Now, I had a woman come with me on one of my trips to Egypt who knew nothing about the Akashic records. And she said, what's the Akashic records? And then somebody, you know, told her, and suddenly she became the biggest expert on the Akashic records. She's one of these people that if she heard something, she was just an expert on it. And at the end of the trip, I said, the one thing you need to know about the Akashic records is that you don't live your life and it's recorded in them. And she went, what? What are you talking about? I said, no, it doesn't work that way. You create the life first, and then it sits on a shelf until such time as you're ready to play it. It works the other way around.
Wonder if you can put one up on the shelf of your current one, but recreate it and come back and play it.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. What you have to understand, you know how they make a CD-ROM game? You know, the computer discs that you get, like here, like this, right?
Yeah.
They make a CD-ROM game. They create all the different levels. They create all the different scenes. They create all the different characters in that CD-ROM game. They're all there. But there's millions of possible outcomes. Okay, so when you create your life, you create it with millions of possible destinies. When I put it into the machine, press play, I now have free will to decide, am I going left or right or up or down? So I determine which one of those destinies is visible on the screen. But all of the others are still here on the CD-ROM game. So you can jump forward in time, you can jump backwards in time, you can jump from one CD to another CD. When you shift your perspective, you determine which destiny is going to unfold. And the CD-ROM game is created with a purpose in mind. So when you learn how to plug into the designer, you know the pathway. You know which one to follow. There's a, some of you have probably read Celestine Prophecy when it came out years ago. And I think from memory in there, they talk about seeing a particular part of the pathway which is light, which is brighter than somewhere else. And that's the way to go. And I've had that experience myself when I've been in Egypt and I've suddenly been drawn to a particular part of a complex. And I've gone over there and I've discovered stuff because of it. And but the subtlety in the difference of light is what it's on about. So this is about learning how to plug in at a different level. Don't look at it. Don't look at the mountain from the valley. Look at the valley from the top of the mountain.
Thank you, Alex.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm just passing through the information. I'm just letting Source freely speak at the moment.
Do you do this every day, or is it just once a week, every week?
Oh, I just started doing these Wednesday ones. I mean, I have people from all over the world calling me for readings and channelings and all sorts of bits and pieces. But I just made a decision with Source because I don't advertise what I do. I just said to Source, here's the deal. Anyone who needs to hear what they need to hear, I'm there for them, but I'm not going to go out and sell myself because it's not about that. He said, no, I'm fine with that. He said, and I'll just send them to you. And they get me from the, you know, oh, a sister of friend of my brother or something had a reading for you and I'm in this and they come and do it. And I suppose it works that way. But again, you know, it's, I'm channeling Source all the time, basically. But when somebody stands in front of me and is asking particular questions, the stuff that comes through is really streamlined for them. Whereas other times he says he might say something that's vague, might seem vague, but there's so much information in it, but he doesn't go into detail because he wants the person to discover the detail. So he plants the seed.
Does he ever say if somebody's not really being true about themselves when they talk to you?
Oh, shit, yeah, all the time. And I mean, he's funny. He's so funny. He says, oh, God, they're so full of shit. I don't know how you can stand listening to it.
But you'd tell them that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I call people on their shit. Oh, don't worry about that. I call people on their shit. I said, Source just said you're so full of shit. So the problem is you're starting to believe it. Even though you know you're full of shit, you're actually starting to believe it. Oh, he doesn't smooth coat things, I tell you. It's like sledgehammer. And people used to have a go at me. They say, oh, you know, you could have said that much softer. I said, I didn't say it. Source said it. I just repeated what he told me to say. And other times he'll say things to me and they're really, like, seriously, they're very, really personal stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, shit, I can't say that. That's a bit full on. And Source says, what's the matter with you? You're supposed to pass on the message. Oh, okay. And then I'll say it. And, you know, the person goes, oh my God, but you're right. I just, you know, and he said to me, look, if you're in a position where you can say something or do something to assist somebody and you don't do it, that reflects on you, not on them. He said, if they've got a block, bring the block to the surface. No, I'm just plugging in, Serena. As a conduit of this, you have an obligation to give the information with the greatest degree of clarity that you can. You can't put political correctness and manners before the message.
Boom, right there.
You know, if people want to shoot the messenger, which they've done with me heaps of times, you know, they want to shoot the messenger, go ahead and shoot the messenger, but the message is going to come through to you, and I can guarantee you it's not going to come through as nicely when Source does it himself. I've got an ex-partner that's going through that at the moment, and she, for best part of 11 years, didn't want to listen to Source through me because of her ego. And now she's gone out on her own, and Source is going, well, she's in my hands now, boyo. And I know the way that Source works, and he's not going to be pleasant with her because she's been given plenty of opportunities, and Source is going to go, no more Mr. Nice Guy now.
Well, thank you, Alex. I actually have to go. I've got a client meeting in 9 minutes.
Cheers,
so
my love. All right.
I'll
Thank you for coming.
see you next Wednesday, and thanks everybody. I'll see you all at whatever next meeting.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's give it another 8 minutes because then we'll have had a good 2 hours. Has anyone got a pressing thing that they... Hein, a good man. Haven't seen you for ages. What can we do you for?
I've been around. Just wondering, like, I mean, this is my first meeting with you here with this topic and stuff. I don't know if you'd class this as me being a bit spiritual, but, you know, I've been to Nepal and India before. My ex-wife, she's Tibetan. So I've got a bit of comprehension on Buddhism, and I love their kind of philosophy and way of thinking and being. And now hearing all of this with what you're talking about, and a few other people have talked about these reptilians and Palladians and Andromedines. I don't know what all this stuff. Is there a book, or is there something I can? Where's the best place to kind of just go to, find and research all about it instead of going around in circles?
Right. Well, this is going to sound weird, but this applies to everyone. The best source of information, go and look in a mirror. That's where your best source of information is. Okay? See, because it's all within you. If you read a book and it resonates, it's because the information is already within you. All you've just is you found another source for it. If you read something and it doesn't do anything for you, then the information's nothing. The only thing that resonates within you is truth. There are a few good books depending on what topic you want to do. A lot of books have what I call filters. It's called polyfiller spirituality, is that they have bits and pieces of the puzzle and then they fill the rest in with their own polyfiller.
Yeah.
And that polyfiller is based on their belief structures. And eventually the belief structures crack and it doesn't hold water. That's why your own self is the greatest source. But you can find bits and pieces depending on what your topic is. You'll find quite a lot about the Anunnaki in some sources. Be careful about what you read about the Pleiadians, because it's written by people who are Pleiadians. So they make the Pleiadians out to be so beautiful and wonderful and everything, and their shit doesn't smell.
Okay.
No, but the reality is, mate, everyone's shit smells.
Yeah. True that.
Depending on what you want to find, just say to the universe, say to your highest self, just guide me to the right book at this moment. Just guide me to it, and then walk into a shop. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in Edinburgh, I got a message that I needed to go to a particular shop in Edinburgh, and I could see it. It had this big wall of books and everything in it. So I'm walking down the street and I came across the particular spiritual bookshop, and I walked in and I stood there and there was no shelf with all these big books in it. And I went, this is not right. I thought, oh, maybe they've got another room. So I asked them and I said, have you got like a big wall shelf in another room with all of this stuff going on? And they said, oh, no, you must be thinking about our other shop, which is just around the corner. I said, oh, okay, thanks. So I go and I walk around the corner, I walk into the shop, and there it is. There's the big bookshelf all along the wall with all the things in it. So here I am, I'm standing there and I'm scanning the shelf. So, okay, so where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to get? Am I supposed to get a book? Am I supposed to get a crystal? What am I supposed to be here for? And I'm going up and down and there's nothing in the bookshelf. So I turn on it and I'm scratching my head and I'm looking across the other side of the room and where the counter is. And behind the counter, there's a sign that says tarot readings.
Good boy.
And I went, oh, would I be here for a tarot reading? I mean, maybe, I don't know. And anyway, I go back to the shelf and I scan the shelf again. I can't find any. There's nothing going on. And I turned back, and as I did that, the counter went down to a lower basement, and a girl came up who had just had a reading, and so did the person who was the reader. And as she spoke, she was Australian. Straight away, it's like, oh, I'm meant to have a reading with this girl. So I booked it, and I had to wait half an hour. I went for a walk, and I came back. We went down, and she starts the reading, and every card she turned over, she talked about, and I'm going, yep, got that, yep, I know that, yeah, all of that. And every single card that she read, I knew it all, everything. And at the end of it, she said, okay, that's the reading. And I said, no, you don't understand. I've come here because I've been told to come here because you're going to give me a very powerful message. And she looked at me with this incredibly blank face. And I suddenly realized that all she did was read the cards. There was nothing else there. And she said, is that okay? I said, well, no, it's not, because that's why I've been guided here, because there's some really powerful message that I'm supposed to get. And everything that you've turned over, I already knew. She said, well, I'm sorry, that's all there is. So anyway, I paid her and I walked out of the shop, and I said, well, that was a friggin' waste of time. And then Source said to me, he said, oh, you silly boy. He said, when are you going to realize to stop asking everybody else to confirm what you already know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
I just laughed. I said, you're clever. I said, you're really clever. Because if I hadn't have had the experience, I wouldn't have got the message. Sometimes you have to have the experience. Being told it isn't good enough.
Boy, is that a fact.
So, Hein, all you got to do is, mate, it just ask, say, just guide me to the books, and they'll come.
Yeah, cool. Thanks
One
for
more.
Can I ask then, Alex, what do you have any philosophical advice on detaching from family?
Well, I wouldn't call it philosophical advice. It's just common sense. If they give you the shits, piss them off.
Detach.
Just detach. You know,
Yep, just detach.
they're human. Look, my mother's human. And she runs human patterns, and she pisses me off no end. But I humour her by allowing her to tell me something 6 times. That she went down the street and then the lady across the road had a dog, and she tells me the story 6 times. And I humour her because she's my mother. If she was not my mother, I would have nothing to do with her.
What about when it's your children?
When it's your children, well, they chose you, honey.
Mm.
Got to remember that. They chose you. So what is it that they're wanting to experience with you as a mother? Ask yourself that question. What do I bring
feel
them?
they're not learning. They're not learning the lessons that have been put in front of them, and so therefore they keep repeating them, and they keep doing some real bad shit, and to me as well. And
Well, you don't tolerate their behaviour.
no,
My ex-partner used to do this.
again.
I'll tell you what my ex-partner used to do that was different to me. My kids knew exactly what the consequences were from the minute they say something. So if they did it, the consequence happened straight away.
Yep.
There's no second chances.
No.
My ex-partner, she used to go into the whole engaging with it. So the kids learnt 5, 6, 7 times that they could challenge her on something to do it.
Yep.
Okay, so they have 2 methods of operation. One is when you deal with daddy, it is what it is. There's no arguing. It gets worse if you argue. If you nag, you get nothing. And their other process is they just keep badgering their mother until they get what they want.
Yeah.
Now, which one are you? Do you cave in and give them 17 tries and then you give them what they want? Or do you just go, that's it, too bad, get over it?
Yeah, I do the too bad, get over it, but then I become, the most hated person on the face of the earth because of it.
No, it's just because they can't manipulate you.
Yeah, yep.
Okay? But what would you rather be? Respected and hated, or not respected and being given false love because you can give them whatever they want when they manipulate you?
Yeah, the first version, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I
tough
will
love.
not tolerate the manipulation and lies, and I've
You know,
walked away again
but
for
do
the
it, but do
time
it,
and last
do it in a
time.
good manner. Do it in a good manner.
Mm.
Say, well, you know, I'm not going to buy into that sort of crap. I don't know
Yeah.
why you keep doing it. You mean you're old enough now to realise that.
Mm.
So you know, mummy can't be manipulated. So why do you waste your energy trying?
Yes.
And your behaviour is
yes.
unacceptable, and there's going to be consequences.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to leave it to you in the will. I'm not going to leave the house to you in the will. I'm going to spend all my money and have a good life, which is something that you need to learn to do.
Yes, my word.
You know, just be happy about it and laugh.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex.
My pleasure.
You kind of made it all make sense.
Well, look, it does make sense when we get out of our emotional attachments to stuff.
Yeah.
This is often why we go to ask somebody else's opinion who's not involved.
Mm.
And they often give us really good advice. And how often do we take it?
Not enough.
No, because we're too
So
emotionally
we know
attached
that
to it.
they're right.
There's that old phrase that people say, yes, but, you know, yes, but, I mean, I agree with you, yes, but. It's like, no, well, you don't agree with me because you just said yes, but.
Yeah.
If you said yes and, I get you, but I've got a blockage and I keep stuffing it up, that's different.
Mm.
You've got to go from yes, but to yes and.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Alex.
Cheers. Look, thank you all so much for coming on. I could probably keep talking for forever and do that, but I've still got work to do as well too. So I've got to jump onto that. But thank you all for coming along, and I hope there's been some enlightenment in some areas passed on from Source through to you. We'll do it again next week. In the meantime, if questions come to you, just jot them down.
Alex, there's just one question there. Lisa wasn't sure how to raise her hand. I don't know if you've seen it there. She wants to know how does we are all one consciousness versus getting toxic people out of your life reconcile?
Oh, that's a big question. Hang on, run that through me again. Sorry, I get so caught up that I never really get to the chat. How does we are all one consciousness versus getting toxic people out of your life reconcile? We're all one consciousness with different perspectives. Think of a diamond. A diamond has many faces, but it's all part of the one consciousness, and it reflects back different things. People aren't toxic. Their emotional attachments make them act as if they're toxic. To get them out of your life, you just simply say, if you want to do that to you, that's fine. But it's unacceptable. I don't tolerate it. So you either have a choice to not be like that around me or not be around me. What's your choice? That's how simple it is. Doesn't matter if it's a partner, a parent, whatever it is, you give them the choices. You can be toxic. You can be as toxic as much as you want. I'm here to assist you if you want to assist yourself. But if you're not going to assist yourself, I'm not going to waste my time and I'm not going to tolerate that behavior. So make your choice. Do you want me to assist you and be in my life, or do you want to just fuck off and leave me alone? And then you just hold to it. I don't talk to my ex-partner because she's what I call the Queen of Swords. When she's in her Queen of Swords behavior, I don't tolerate that behavior, so I don't communicate with her. I pretend she's not even there. But if she goes into the person that she can be, I'm 100% there for her. And she knows that. And she's going through a stage at the moment where she wants to be the Queen of Swords. So I go, well, good luck to you. Not interested. You can buy into the bullshit if you want. That's what I say. Don't buy into the bullshit. When people play those games, they are trying to manipulate you. And some people are very good at passive manipulation by trying to make you the cause of everything. They turn themselves into the victim. All right? Now, let me give you a situation. If I smack somebody in the head and they smack me back, and I complain about the fact that they hit me and I'm poor me and I go into the victim and I don't mention the fact that I caused it in the first place, who's to blame if we play the blame game? Okay, and I'm not being sexist here, but I'm being sexist here, all right? Women will cause a problem and the man reacts. The woman then blames the man because of his reaction. When she has caused it in the first place, she goes into victim mode. And the man says, you started this. And we go around in circles. Everybody, be they man nor women, must take responsibility for when they initiate the problem. The person who initiates the problem must face the consequences, even if they appear unjust. If you caused it, you got to claim it.
It's a two-way story though, Alex, isn't it? I mean, one person can be operating from their story, which is not real, it's their story. And you then can also bite into that story through your own filters or your own story and get caught up in that story, as opposed to staying meta and going, okay, that's their story.
Yeah. A lot of the times, you're absolutely spot on, Peter. A lot of the times, we are the mirrors of each other. So if we've got an issue that we need to be resolved, often we will pick somebody who is the exact mirror of that back to us. What we do is we start blaming the mirror rather than go, no, I decided to put this polka dot blue dress on. You know, the fact that they told me it looked like shit is just me making a bad choice, or whatever it is. You know, it's going to be different for everyone. But actually, I'm gonna put it in the message box here. And my apologies for everybody for not getting to messages. I will save it and I'll go back and put into it. But I wanted to put something through. That's my chat. What am I doing here? I've got a document that people might enjoy reading, if I can find it. I think it's in here. Yeah, here we go. It's called Snow White, and it explains the aspects of divine masculine, divine feminine through the story of Snow White, which may give us a better perspective on how things operate. And that was something that was channeled through from Source about 18 months ago. So did it come up there?
Yes, Alex, it's in
Cool,
the chat.
cool. And I don't mind if you don't agree with it. I don't mind if you think it's a load of shit. I don't mind if you like it. It's got nothing to do with me. It's something that's come through, and if it assists, fantastic. If it doesn't assist, don't throw it out. Just stick it in a pocket of your computer somewhere, because you never know when it might become useful.
Would that come up on the chat window, Alex?
It's in the chat, guys.
It's in the chat window, but I think if you're on a phone, it doesn't show up.
I'm on an iPad, so...
Yeah, it may not show up.
Guys. I might put it on my website, Alex, so people can download it from there if they want.
By all means. Look, the only things that I'm precious about in my copyright is my musicals and my plays that I write. Anything that is channeled through from Source, even though it's come through me, I don't put any copyright on it.
Because it's a gift, as you said before.
Absolutely. The gift is in the information going to people. And if I charge for, you know, if I'm the postman and I'm charging to deliver the mail, then that's not right. And I don't, you know, if you're a conduit, you're a conduit. You're not a con man. So the information is there for people to use or not use or do whatever. And, you know, I've got a couple of other things that, you know, down track I might fire out as well. But
thanks, Alex. For those who can't see the chat, it's I've downloaded it. I'll pop it onto a website called powertothepeopleaus.com. putting a lot of resources there from all the different links and groups and whatnot, all the different sites that we're connecting to in this group. So including Alex's stuff, and there's events calendar there. So you can always pop over to there, and I'll upload that to that site shortly for you to download if you can't get hold of it through your phone.
And I'm going to say this publicly, and Ainsley, I'm going to acknowledge you, because in the short time that I've been aware of you, and I think it's only 1 or 2 meetings, you are a mover and a shaker, and I totally commend you for that. And I publicly acknowledge you and applaud you for what you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that very much.
Yay.
On that note, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you. And I'll catch you either tomorrow night or on Saturday, when I'm going to do a breakdown of how do we file a claim and how do we defend against the legal system. And I'm going to go through some documents and some processes. So I might see you on Saturday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which might be early for you people in the West, but I'm sorry about that.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Alex.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers.